A very welcome back to Thomond Park in Limerick for the second of today's Munster Barbarians doubleheader. Earlier on, Emer Considine and I watched the Munster women's team against the Barbarian women's team in an interesting encounter, a try-fest in the first half, much tighter with a bit more niggle in the second half. That's now done, 45 points to 12, the final score in that game. Now it's for the men's team and hopefully Munster to redeem some of the earlier loss on behalf of the men's team. Dan Mooney in commentary today alongside Johnny Holland. Johnny, what are you thinking?
It's going to be massively exciting. I think Barbarians coming anywhere close to us is always a good opportunity. You know, they're very exciting. It's a prestigious club, so I'm looking forward to seeing it. I'm just looking through both teams, and I think there's a lot of excitement from the Munster side. I think there's a lot of cohesion from pre-season, and I'm looking forward to how they bring that forward. The other side, I'm not fully sure what we might get from them yet, whether they get cohesion or not, but I think it'll be exciting either way.
We saw earlier on in the game a number of trick plays from penalties, an NFL style almost, a little tap back through the legs, quarterback style, throwing the ball around. It was highly entertaining to watch. We're probably expecting something similar again today, are we?
Yeah, I think that's their trademark, isn't it? That they'll do a 15-man maul, or they'll do a Carlos Spencer turn around and kick it over your head kind of job. So we'll be looking out for those, all right, bit of trick plays, and I think that's part of the tradition of the Barbarians. But hopefully it won't go through Munster's team. I think they're treating this like a pre-season game, obviously, and a build into the URC. So I think we'll see a lot more structure from Munster, particularly in defence. I don't know if we'll see that from Barbarians, but the trick plays and attack we'll be looking forward to.
What will Munster be hoping, Johnny, to get out of this game?
I think like that now we get their structures right, get a bit of further cohesion in attack, because I think that's the word we're talking about all summer, and I think that's what coming in from Ireland, it's all about cohesion. I think that's what the coaches want to see, structures in defence. Dennis Leamy will be disappointed with some of the stuff that they did against Leinster in particular, set piece defence to kind of see him at the back of the maul. So I think they'd like to keep their kind of progression on that side of it, and again they're going into a league. The Barbarians are out for a runaround, so it's going to be very different. The
Barbarians team then have just made their way out onto the pitch to some very lukewarm applause. Rodrigo Netti, Christian Dacey and Vadim Kobilash are the front row. In the second row, Johan Goujon, Piule Faselele, The back row is Baptiste Guy, Aaron Shingler and Leone Nakarawa. What a player to have, an athlete and a powerhouse at number 8. Number 9 is Jonathan Ruru. Number 10, Julian Dumora. In the centre, Sofiane Guiton and Jean-Baptiste Debris. The wingers are Toby Arnold, Lucas Tauzin, and the fullback, Mans Dusain. For Munster, in the front row, Josh Wycherley, Diarmaid Barron and Stephen Archer. Second rows, Edwin O'Dogbo and Fineen Wycherley. The back row is Jack O'Donoghue, Jack Daly and Gavin Coombs, who we were speaking just off camera about how disappointed he'll be to not be in the World Cup squad. He'll be looking to take some of that frustration out on the Barbarians today. Ethan Coughlin starts at scrum half. Joey Carberry's the out half. In the centre, Rory Scannell and Antoine Frisch. The wingers are Calvin Nash and Shay McCarthy, with Shane Daly at full back. It is, as you say, Johnny, it's a relatively experienced Munster team, and they will have a certain amount of cohesion that we're not expecting to see out of the Babas.
Yeah, I think you've got one or two guys thrown in there, like Edwin O'Dogbo. It'll be very exciting to see how he goes, and Ethan Coughlin, young scrum half. But other than that, like you look at the appearances, Jack O'Donoghue 186, Rory Scannell 174. Obviously you've got Stephen Archer there, I think 263. Like there's a lot of appearances around that team. You've got Rory Scannell, youngest to 100 caps, Jack O'Donoghue, youngest to 150 caps. A lot of appearances there across Munster's team.
Greg was an elite player development officer with the Munster Rugby Academy and played an instrumental role
in moment of silence being held,
including some of the players featuring here today. A former international scrum half, Greg played in 2 Rugby World Cups for Scotland and also
see the Babas in their array of multicoloured socks. Standing at the very end, an absolute mountain, is Leone Nakarawa.
Across the province, Irish rugby and Scottish rugby. Greg also played and coached the Barbarians. He was a devoted family man.
Munster will have on their bench a number of options. Good to see Tom Ahern coming back from injury. Some of the lesser known players like Mark Donnelly and Brian Gleeson will get a run out presumably at some point. As the moment of applause rather than silence is being held. And the stadium has started to fill up somewhat. The crowd all on their feet in appreciation. As the brand new stadium LED lights come on, they'll add to this spectacle as the sun goes down in this relatively mild late September day. Still a bit of a breeze blowing, as we often see in Thomond Park, the flags changing direction as the wind swirls around. Frank Murphy is the man in the middle. He'll be keeping an eye on these proceedings, as Johnny and I also will. Julien Dumora gets ready to kick this off. The crowd waiting for something of a spectacle. They'll be looking forward to this. Dumora gets the game underway, a high hanging kick dropping into the waiting Munster pack. Daly on the carry immediately, looking to make an impact. Coughlin for Carberry and into midfield, and it's Wycherley. And the ball being flung around as Shea McCarthy gets his hands on it, and the first bit of speed from him. The winger has plenty pace. Fans of the All-Ireland League will be familiar with his work. Slow ball coming back at Dogboat, acting as the support, and Ethan Coughlin's going to put some air on this one. Barbarians dropping back into the backfield. It's high, it's hanging, it is contestable. Well taken. Under pressure. Nakarawa on his first carry, and a nice little offload into traffic too. Munster doing well to stifle the threat. In midfield, a lovely little tip-on pass, that carry from Dusang, and this is Dumora again, and he's showing some options, and there is space outside. Lovely little pop-up pass for Jean-Baptiste Dubuis. And Barbarians really moving that ball, but it's knocked on. Daly with the kick. Clears it out. Barbarians have it back inside their own half. The crowd thought that one might have been a hint forward. Lovely little dink over the top. Shea McCarthy has to scramble and collect, and does, and bursts out of the first tackle. Brought to ground the second time round. Munster in good support. They'll want it to be a little bit quicker than that. Carberry on the second backdoor option, and the ball bouncing up and loose. And is that a high tackle? Well, it certainly was. A little bit reckless. Daly on the inside pass for Antoine Frisch. Frisch this way and that through two tackles. Popped it up through hands again. Munster carrying. Barron on the carry this time round.
No. Never lifted. Ball's out.
Ethan Coughlin thought he had it, and it's been swallowed up instead by Aaron Shingler, the former Welsh international. And Frank Murphy says it was clearly out, and Nakarawa with the break, nobody on the pillar. He's all on his own. He's going to need some support. Slow to get there, and Munster steal it. Off the deck, the pop-up, really well taken, and Munster have the possession back after a lovely break from Leone Nakarawa. Coughlin looking this way and that, and finding Carberry in the backfield, and the little dink over the top is going to bounce uncomfortably. Really well taken. And the carry from Toby Arnold, and into midfield it goes. And suddenly it looks like there's options. Big hit from Shea McCarthy, but there are players still waiting. Barbarians get their hands on it. Another little dink over the top. A Dogbo collects it, and the little dink from Dumora. Well, he made the most of the contact and bought his team a penalty, and you got to say, that's experience.
He saw a tight head prop in front of him, and Stephen Archer knew he wasn't going to move too much, and he did buy that one a small bit. But that was 2 minutes and 40 of ball in play from the first play, and I think that's going to take the air out of their lungs. I know it's going to suit Munster. Their aim last year was keep the ball in play and stress teams, and maybe they will stress the Barbarians here. But just from the kickoff, we see Brian Gleeson carrying that back, and straight away you're looking at why is he in there when he's named on the bench. And we were worried about Gavin Coombs in the way that he was walking down the tunnel just before the kickoff, and I think that confirms that there was something up. And Brian Gleeson, lucky for him, the 19-year-old is in to start.
Well, we do hope that Gavin Coombs hasn't done any serious damage. If we get more information on that, we will come back to you. Maul for the Barbarians, thrown in from Christian Dacey. Line out now over, but the Barbarians really moving this maul, and a lot of players involved in it. Munster are going to have to move Frank Murphy tells him it's still going
One
forward.
stop.
And that's one stop.
Push here.
Munster
You're
need
offside,
to
push
work
back.
harder because they are giving up yards. And a lovely little show and go. Ruru with the
Back
pass.
in,
It's
back
popped
on.
up and it's knocked on. And Munster have hands on it. Ruru, you thought the line was coming
No.
for him. The scrum half. And Munster turned that over.
Offside.
And offside against the Barbarians, and
Happy
Munster
Norris,
get a
happy
free exit, but they'll have been relatively pleased, Johnny, with the defensive shift there, putting pressure
Offside, number
on
10.
the Barbarians team.
Yeah, the Barbarians maul was well set there and did numbers in it, so I think the pressure was on Munster to come up with something. I think the Barbarians players were looking for an early tackle with that offload on the try line, and I'm not sure if it was or not. We were obstructed a small bit here, but Munster got away with one, forced to knock on, and they're
Nice pick.
attempting to exit their own territory
Line.
here as well.
Barbarians on the line.
Also, due to my advancing years, I couldn't quite make out
Full man.
who had knocked that ball on from the pass from Ruru. Munster to the tail of that line out, working really well. Carberry, there's a little reverse inside option for Shea McCarthy, and he carries it really well. Munster
Back
want
in,
that quick
offside,
ball they
fine.
have, and there's a gap, and through the gap Munster burst, and there are options outside. It's a popped up, it's going to be carried all the way to the line, and a superb score for Diarmuid Barron. Munster saw the gap, burst through it. The support run from Diarmuid Barron was outstanding, and he had the legs, the front row forward, to go all the way to that try line. And what a burst of pace from the hooker.
Unbelievable pace from Diarmuid Barron to finish it, but I think there's a very pleasing aspect of that play as well, that Jack Daly was the one that got through the gap, and Jack has been through a tough time recently. He got injured against Leinster in 22-23 season, 21-22 was it? He was out for a full season after that, and he only returned a couple of weeks ago against Leinster, 2 games ago. And he hit the ground running coming off the bench that time. A couple of poaches, wasn't afraid of it, and now he's getting going on the attacking side of the ball as well, so it's great to see.
A superb score. It's not very often you'll see a hooker with that burst of pace to get all the way to the line.
While the scrum cap is off, he's taking his breaths. It's too early in the game to put that kind of effort in there. We'll see how Joey Carberry goes off the tee.
So confirmation then that Gavin Coombs is out of this game. Brian Gleeson comes in at 8, and Evan O'Connell is moved onto the bench for Munster. Nephew of Paul. Carberry sizing this one up and slots it. No more than you'd expect from a kicker of Joey Carberry's calibre.
Yeah, it's good to see him knocking that over. I think there's a lot of Munster people rooting for Joey Carberry this year. I think the pressure's off the World Cup currently happening, and he can ease his way into a season, but everyone's rooting for him, I think, and hoping that he gets back to his top form, because when he's at it, it's such a high ceiling, so we'll be looking at him eagerly here.
Kicked off from Julian Dumora to the backfield, and Munster look to carry out heavy, and that's a
Inside.
huge rampaging hit.
Use it 9.
Ball still in the 22, not taken out. Wycherley on the carry, goes to ground. Dogbo for support.
Use it 9.
Coughlin wants it. Referee Frank Murphy says use it. The clock is
5.
on. Coughlin puts a boot on it. Gonna drop. Just in touch. Looking to play that one quickly, but cooler heads
2 and 2.
prevail. And the Barbarians will have their second line out of the game. Opportunity for them inside that Munster half to build something.
Numbers, please.
Yeah, if I was Joey Carberry on the exit there, I'd be looking for Brian Gleeson as well. He's a very strong man. I think he's about 116 kilos based on his stats online anyway. He's a Tipperary man, but he carries very hard like we saw in the Under-20s campaign.
To midfield, and Dumora has it inside. Lovely carry from Sofiane Guiton. Munster working
Tackle,
hard
release.
to try and stand up the Barbarians players. Outside Dumora, and that's a lovely little pass. Is their inside option, tackling well from Munster inside their own half. Nakarawa
lock on.
knocks it on. Poor pass. Munster have.
Okay.
Referee says we're going to have the scrum.
No advantage.
Nakarawa
On Barbarians from Munster.
ran a good line. The pass delivery wasn't good.
Yeah, the delivery wasn't great. Maybe you still expect someone like Nakarawa
Mark's
to
here.
catch that, the magic of his hands.
Let's go,
I
guys.
don't think he's used to dropping the ball, but interestingly, we saw Shea McCarthy with 2 very good reads, opposing kind of body positions. In the first one,
keep that
he
space.
came in and shut down the
Wait for his
space
ball.
and stopped the man with one outside when it's easier to maybe hold off and hedge your bets a small bit. That time, he was a bit narrower and made a different decision, but made the right decision both times, and it's great to see at the early parts of the game that the young Munster
Crouch.
and young Munster man is making the right decisions.
5.
That one won't get confusing. He is a young Munster man. He's
Set.
also a young Munster man. So the feed from Coughlin. Munster's scrum. steady at the 10-metre line inside their own half. Gleeson flicking it up for Coughlin, and Coughlin to Rory Scannell in midfield, and Scannell's pass isn't good, but it goes to hand eventually. A little show and go from Calvin Nash. A dogbow on the carry. Tilby needed 3 to put him to ground. Eventually he goes. Coughlin has hands on it. Going to be offside. The referee hasn't spotted it, and they go out the back. And Antoine Frisch has it. He'll straighten up. No, zigzags inside and out. Antoine Frisch, superb run. The pass was a little bit astray, but Munster still have, and looking to build and burst through. Really good carry into contact. Munster looking fluid, and Joey Carberry didn't know that he was the passing option. The ball hits him and goes to ground, and Munster will be disappointed. And now the Barbarians with a chance to attack, and that's a lovely little step from Nans Dossan to ground. He goes. The little dink in behind. This time Shea McCarthy is waiting for it, and it sits up really nicely for him, and he's going to try and break his way through, and he does get through one tackle, but not the second. Ball is turned over. He was a little bit isolated. Ruru throwing deep into midfield, and there's 2 Barbarians players. Neither one of them talk to each other, and the ball spills forward, and that's a bit of a comedy of errors.
Yeah, I think that's just something that might frustrate Munster after all their good work down the far touchline, and then maybe just a bit of a breakdown of communication. You see the potted 3 forwards were set. Joey Carberry sitting in behind them, waiting to play the ball through his forwards, but Ethan Coughlin and Joey Carberry not on the same page there, and the ball hitting Joey Carberry in the chest, a little bit of a knock-on and a turnover for Barbarians to break away.
Had been outstanding work from Munster. You were concerned, Johnny, before the game started that the lack of preparation time and the lack of cohesion was going to cause problems for the Barbarians' defence, and that looks to be the case. Munster have found those gaps, and Antoine Frisch is going to have himself a field day today.
Yeah, I think like you can see on the attacking side of the ball, they're happy to offload and be unstructured, but unstructured doesn't work in defence, and if they haven't done some work, it's not going to really go their way. If Munster are cohesive like we think they're going to be, it's not going to go the way of the Barbarians if they're not used to each other and the connections aren't there. But there's challenges on both sides of that. I wouldn't like to be a defence coach on either side of the game here today, except the Barbarians won't review it. Dennis Leamy certainly will be, so it's going to be interesting from an attack defence perspective.
And the early shove was from Vadim Kobilash, the tight head for the Barbarians. Munster opt to go back for the scrum with the free.
Crouch.
Impressive that the 40-year-old is out there scrummaging at all.
40-year-old prop. What a proposition. Ethan Coughlin with the feed to the back. He goes. Is Gleeson going to pick this one? No, Coughlin has it. And into midfield. Carberry, lovely little reverse pass. And Munster have done some great work there, and Daly is on it. Looking to step this way, and that has done fantastically. Shane Daly also offloading in the tackle. Coughlin to Carberry and into midfield, and Munster looking for the heavy carries. Ball is available. Munster back down that open side again. Carberry with the tip on. Scannell looked for the man, and it just didn't quite go to hand, and still Munster managed to get it through hands, and the ball is spilled. Referee says play on, no knock on, and into midfield, and suddenly the Barbarians look to be on the attack. That kick is going to go way too long, and it has, from the full-back Nans Dossan.
Antoine Frisch is just so impressive with the ball in hand, isn't he? Those snake hips, and he's inside and outside. But I think he was tackled early there. He was given out a bit. I was given out a small bit actually here off camera. But nice bit of interplay on the far edge, and I think he was hard done by there not to get a bit more reward for it.
Red scrum.
Munster players receiving treatment. Diarmuid Barron is with the physio. Slow to regain his feet. Did he empty the tank scoring that try?
I think he might have. The doc is pointing here that he's okay. He's just maybe winded trying to catch his breath. So not a whole lot going on, hopefully.
Treatment seems to be fine. Nobody in any major concern. And Diarmuid Barron is back on his feet and making his way back. The mark is inside the Barbarians' half, and where that kick went all the way dead. Munster will have to put into the scrum, and
I know you're not, I'm just saying.
At 40 years old, I would be a little bit concerned for Vadim Kobilash if he has to keep scrummaging.
Not knowing what it feels like to be a tight head, I'd be far more concerned with the ball in play time that he's not going to keep up, but maybe he'll just, jog around the centre and wait till the ball comes to him.
Like a number of props I could name, but won't, as we're in a broadcast. Josh Wycherley, young and up and coming, facing a grizzled veteran in Kobilash, Moldovan.
Crouch!
He'll be looking for a bit of help from his hooker, Christian Dacey,
Bind.
to try and get some parity there.
Set. Steady.
Ball is to be fed. Coughlin feeds it. It's a really good scrum from the Barbarians. Looks to be spinning, and Gleeson picks it up, throws it a little wayward into midfield, and Frisch has his hands on it. Chopped low, good tackle. Munster still have. It's clean ball, and Carberry puts his boot on, and he's going to bounce this one into touch. He has bounced it into touch, and that will be a 50-22. And Munster will have to put in that superb tactical kicking from Joey Carberry.
And that's the one that gets the Thomond Park crowd clapping. I think it was a left-footed kick. It looked like a perfect spiral. What he knew about that, I assume he did. But lovely and technical, and into the Barbarians 22.
So Munster look like they're scheming something here. A little bit of a chat in that huddle before Josh Wycherley gives Diarmuid Barron the instructions. What have Munster got in their locker for this particular moment? Barron to the front. Edwin Adogbo takes it, and Munster set up the maul and look to go moving. And they are moving. Barbarians creaking a little bit under the pressure. Have they brought that down illegally? Referee says no, and into midfield Munster go instead with Scannell. Lovely carry through the first tackle. Coughlin pops it up, and Shane Daly one-handed, little bit showy, but gets the job done, and it's through the hands, and Munster still having the opportunity is there, and Antoine Frisch, no, it's Joey Carberry rounding the last man, walking behind the posts. He'll touch it down for Munster's second try, and that fractured, unstructured kind of play really allowed Munster to see the gaps burst through, and Joey Carberry gets the second try. He'll be delighted with that.
They'll be very happy with that, because I think Munster are doing a lot of work, you know, in that zone of the pitch, and it all seemed a bit easy, didn't it, the maul? I'm not sure how the entries were looking in that maul there, but they got away with it, and then there was a bit of a slap at the ball, maybe a slap at the arm, but there was a penalty advantage coming. Luckily Joey Carberry snuck over, and he's getting his points tally creeping up here.
Okay, thank you.
Carberry will surely dink that one over, and he does. Not the best struck conversion in the world, but he didn't need to when you're that close. And Munster 14-0 up against this Barbarians team, and I suspect it's going to be a long day for the team in black and white.
Yeah, but I'm just looking there off the scrum. I think there's a little bit of a misplaced set piece there. I think Brian Gleeson coming straight into the team. Maybe he didn't have as many reps throughout the week that Gavin Coombs was hogging, but there was a small bit of different pages there too, but I'm sure he'll build his way into the game again.
Perfect high-hanging kick.
Knock on,
And then Munster knock it on. It was a superb restart from Julien Dumora, just dropping it exactly where he needed to for his own forwards to get in and compete, make it difficult, and Munster forced the error.
I think Demora's in the shop window here today. His array of kicking has already been shown, and he has that reverse pass when he absolutely did not need to, but for the crowd maybe he did. So he's shown a bit of skill already, and maybe buying into the Barbarians' way.
Can we just run it square? Okay.
Jonathan Ruru with his hands on the ball wants a fresh one thrown in from the side.
Just ask him to from it square. Just watch which one goes first.
Frank having a little chat
We're watching. First one to turn.
and reassuring the players that he's watching. He has come around onto this side to get a better look at Josh Wycherley versus Vadim Kobilash.
Crouch!
And that seemed to be where the scrum was creaking a little bit the last time round.
Sit!
Ruru with the feed.
Square.
It's a good shove from both sides, and Nakarawa popping it up, and Ruru has his hands on it again, and he goes to the second layer, and Dumora was there, and it's Drew Sings flinging it out to Lucas Tauzan, and Tauzan has to step back inside, but they're now inside the Munster 22. Superb play, and Munster looked to have got on that and turned that one over, and it's outstanding work from Jack Daly to get over that ball, steal that turnover, and then win his team a penalty. Outstanding work. He's congratulated by Finian Wycherley and Edward Adogbo. Solo effort from Daly.
And that's what we saw from him in Musgrave Park against Leinster a couple of weeks back on his return. There's just no fear going into those breakdowns. It's obviously a big part of his game, but it must have been very hard for him to watch the likes of Alex Candell, John Hodnett getting ahead of him while he could do nothing about it. He's inside in his rehab stint for as long as it was with his injury, and you know he's obviously trying to make a statement here, and he's doing it very positively.
Carberry gets Munster over the 10, still inside their own half. Diarmuid Barron will have to put in. Munster will presumably look to keep this one nice and simple. 5-man line out. Four-man line out.
That's your age getting to you again.
Dermot Barron. Jack O'Donoghue went up. There was a little bit of interference, but Munster still have lovely little fend from Brian Gleeson. Big collision. Barron on the carry into traffic. Coughlin thrown away. Gleeson. Scannell has his hands on it, and there's a lot of pressure here. And Calvin Nash has it. And what's he going to be able to do with it? On the ground, a little bit isolated. Munster have lost 20, 30 yards because of miscommunication and poor passes. Ethan Coughlin just wants this one clear. The exit is good. Dropping in front of Tauzan. Really well taken, and players rushing up to put pressure on. That tackle missed was from Jack O'Donoghue.
Advantage off
Ruru
the ball.
To Dumora. Dumora into midfield, and the ball tipped on. There is an advantage for the Barbarians for a knock on if they want to come back for it. They're just flinging that ball around. Munster turned it over.
Off feet, throwing the ball.
It's off feet rather than a knock on.
There it is.
Yeah, unfortunately, I think Edwin Adogbo was, thinking he had his hands on the ball, but he was losing his balance, I suppose, when he was going forward for that, and the penalty's gone against Munster. But I think in a very similar position, it could have gone the other way for that high tackle, was it, on Brian Gleeson? I'm sure it took him a couple of seconds to get up, not insinuating anything to do with head contact, but I'm sure if we had another look at it, we could find issues with it. As we've seen in the World Cup, when you slow anything down, there might be something to look at, but I think that was definitely a heavy contact that some people might want to watch again.
So Frank Murphy just letting Edwin Adogbo know what he was guilty of. And the put in for Christian Dacey into this Barbarians line-out. It's a big one. It'll be to the tail. Up they go, and the ball is knocked on, and Joey Carberry flings a boot at it and clears it all the way back, and Dumora's in the backfield to collect. Inside to Nans Do Singh, and Do Singh stepping Joey Carberry and stepping another two, and suddenly there's a gap for him to run into. Nans Do Singh this way and that. Lovely pop up to Nakarawa, and the ball knocked backwards, but Barbarians still have it. Through the hands they go again. And the players out wide, lovely long pass to Tauzan, dinking it over the top, and it's bounced all the way dead. And it's going to be Munster's possession back. You'd think that for just a second there, Lucas Tauzan seemed to be suggesting that he was wiped out.
I think we do that when we kick the ball too long anyway, don't we? Look for a reason to maybe come back, but I thought the offload from the Barbarians was forward there. Maybe Frank's going into the old jouet here with the Babas, but Munster would be happy to get their hands back on the ball and exit their territory again.
Dusang really lit it up to step on Carberry and then burst through a gap. Nakarawa was on his shoulder, and they can threaten, they can move that ball, and they will provide an attacking threat from time to time in this game. Dropped into the hands of Aaron Shingler. Back to Dusang again. This time it's with Jean-Baptiste Dubuis. Dubuis stepping this way and that, and he's burst through another tackle, just about dragged down by Finian Wycherley. Really good play, and Nakarawa with that hand high up into the air. Munster looking to get around him and turn that ball over, and it looks as though it's been knocked on.
Back on the ground.
Munster says it was played back on the ground by a Munster player.
Backwards off white.
And so a penalty.
Then on the ground by red. That's what about
I think for any youngsters or any coaches of youngsters out there, you don't want to be copying what Nakarawa does with the ball. He's probably the only one that can get away with that, going into the contact as high as he can and have the ball even higher and maybe look for his offload. Didn't work out from that time. I think Munster were very close with turnover. Very unlucky there not to get the ball back.
It looked as though Nakarawa had knocked it on as he hit the ground, but the referee says it was knocked back and then played on the ground by a Munster hand. And so an opportunity once again for the Barbarians to throw some players up. Line-out has not been rock solid thus far. That's what you get from a lack of cohesion. To the front they go, really well taken, and Nakarawa with the offload, and is Christian Dacey going to get there? No, he's bundled into touch. It was a superb tackle for a finish as Dacey thought the try line was coming. His opposite number, Dermot Barron, doing the work that he needed to do to turn that possession around.
They're the parts that would please the Munster coaches, because that is a challenging thing to defend. You're on your 5. Most of that pack is going to hit the maul if it goes into the maul, and then you get a peel around the front, and they dealt with that quite comfortably. So I think Munster will, you ask what will they take out of the game, that's a big part of it, those kind of defensive structures that are, like close to their own half, so they've done quite well there.
Munster not getting their own possession back off that line out lost 5 metres out, a dangerous place. The Barbarians have it, moving through the hands. That first out carry was into traffic, and Munster are more than willing to make those tackles. Edwin Adogbo was up that time. Lovely little wrap around, and the pass inside to Dusing, and Nans Dusing is going to run in for the Barbarians' first try of the game. Munster stretched a little bit. The lovely backwards pass, reverse pass from Dumora, and Dusing runs that one in. Superb try.
Yeah, and as much as we bigged up their defensive structures, you're going to have to defend a little bit more often. And you see defensive coaches will, they look through the defensive review and everything else, and they'll see why they got bust on the edge there. But it all comes back to the root of it and where did it come from. It's an attacking, it's a possession turnover, and they have to defend it again on their own 5 metre line. So the root cause there was the line out, but they will be disappointed that they got beaten on the wide pass. Shane Daly maybe on his outside shoulder. There's a possibility that Calvin Nash maybe connects with him and gets him on the inside shoulder, but I think there's one or two men over there as well. It's a difficult position for them to be with the issues coming from the inside.
Certainly stretched the Munster defence. We did say that this team can attack and can threaten. Dumora slots that over, and it's 14-7, and the Barbarians are back in this game. Perhaps it won't be such a long day for the team in black and white as the opening 20 minutes had seemed to suggest it might be. Munster will want to reorganise now and make a mark, not allow the Barbarians any more of that ball, which they enjoy moving so much. Carberry, high and hanging, and just going to drop outside the Barbarians 22, and what a massive hit from Calvin Nash. Huge tackle. Christian Dacey has his hands on it, and the Barbarians looking to get going, and it's going to be a penalty. Another turnover. This one from Brian Gleeson. No, from Jack O'Donoghue. Managed to get over that, put pressure on it, and Christian Dacey was all on his own, had to hold on to it on the ground.
And that's a pleasing moment. Kick chase. It's one of the basics. It doesn't take any talent to have a kick chase and a tackle the way Calvin Nash went into that. He's such a strong player. I think you look at him in attack and you wonder how he gets through the tackles from the opposition, and it's because he's that strong. Obviously he can showcase it there in defence. He lined up his tackle really well, but when he puts a bit of footwork on and he gets branches from the opposition, it's no surprise that he gets through when he shows a strength like that.
It was a meaty one, that tackle, and it's put Munster into a dominant position, and Barron goes to the middle, and this time Munster's line out is perfect, and there's a lovely little set play move. You hardly even notice the ball going, and Munster have reached and scored. A huge reach to get over that line and touch that ball down. Outstanding work from the last minute replacement Brian Gleeson, reaching for that line and getting all the way over. And if Munster wanted to lay down a marker, that certainly is the reply they would have wanted to concede in that try.
Yeah, what a response. Like, you're under your post a minute earlier and then you get a penalty from the restart because of Calvin Nash's tackle, kick to the corner. Jack O'Donoghue in that kind of slightly Peter O'Mahony role, controlling the line out, being the captain. I'm sure Jack won't like to be the second Peter O'Mahony, and he's a guy in himself, but you see Brian Gleeson in the Gavin Coombs role, the peel off the back. That's how destructive Gavin Coombs is, and he's a bit of a carbon copy in terms of what he can bring to the peel and the 22-metre attack as well, how strong he is on the carry.
Absolute bull of a man, Brian Gleeson. And Joey Carberry makes no mistake from the tees, so 21-7. We're 25 minutes in, already had 4 tries. This is the kind of occasion that you want in a Barbarians match. You want to see those scores, you want to see players taking opportunities and looking to move that ball.
I think Brian Gleeson had a lot of those pictures in the Under-20 World Cup, didn't he? That he was peeling around off the back of lineouts and just rampaging his way through the defence.
Aimed at Carberry, that kick-off, gets his hands on it and returns the kick. It's going to head for touch just inside the Barbarians' half, and Du Sing throws it straight back into Nakarawa. Nakarawa running straight into Finian Wycherley, and Finian Wycherley strips the ball from him in the contact. Outstanding work from the second row. Munster will want this. Diarmuid Barron, it's poor but collected at the feet from Josh Wycherley, and Antoine Frisch puts his boot on it. This one's a tricky one. It's bouncing awkwardly and Frisch is chasing it, hunting it down. Du Sing has it and goes to ground, and Munster putting pressure on his possession. Pick and go through the gap for the Barbarians. Antoine Frisch, slow getting to his feet.
Wait.
The kick is high and hanging. It's a superb clearing kick all the way up to the halfway line. Outstanding tactical and defensive exit for the Barbarians, and Antoine Frisch. An unusual option to go with that kick, but he almost turned it into points.
Yeah, I think it's difficult. You wouldn't realise that wind is so strong. You can see from the exits from Munster as well. It actually is a bit stronger on the pitch, I would think. So he probably thought it was going to go a little bit further. But interestingly, the Barbarians are getting at Munster's ball from the ruck. I think it is Jonathan Ruru the whole time in there, but they are getting at Ethan Coughlin's hand. It wasn't Coughlin that time, but so whoever was playing 9, it might have been Diarmuid Barron, was upset again by the tackling hand, we'll call it, from Jonathan Ruru.
And Munster overthrowing the line-up, but Tauzan still has it, and Barbarians looking to attack. Tauzan careering out of one tackle, and Rory Scannell says, no, I'll get you this time round. Through the hands it goes again, and Nakarawa with the showy feet. Clear out is good. Ruru has his hands on it. Slow coming back. A poor pass, and Dumora has it, and it's awkward and bounced uncomfortably. Referee says it's gone backwards, and Jonathan Ruru looking to get some unstructured play again. Dumora back into midfield. This Barbarians team moving it through their hands. That one's Vadim Kobilash knocked back. Nakarawa has it. Inside, Jean-Baptiste Dubuis. And then Doucin onto the ground. Fast-paced stuff, but no yards, and Nakarawa's knocked it on. That's the third knock-on he's had this game. Ball seemingly not just sticking to hands for him. Munster's passing not great either at the best of times. Shea McCarthy looks to go around the outside. Ushered back in. That's a big tackle.
Advantage over.
Oh. Ethan Coughlin popping it up. Archer on the carry. Showing well for a man of his vintage.
Go pull him.
260 something odd caps for Munster. Coughlin with the carry on. Dropping too comfortably. And the return kick is huge. Is that one going to find the corner? It's bounced magnificently into touch, and there really is something of a tactical kicking masterclass from Dumora today. He's shown that range that he has.
Yeah, I think it's a battle of nonchalance between Dumora and Joey Carberry, but maybe just seeing how strong that wind actually is, because it looked like he just, barely swung a leg at it, and all of a sudden it's beating them into the corner for a lovely 50-22. But you see there from Munster maybe going for a bit of structure and looking to set up the exit. You can actually hear cries from the coaching box behind me to sweep that and get into the middle of the pitch. So it's interesting to hear that the coaches are looking for a small bit more from them, whereas the players on the pitch maybe feeling the pace a small bit, maybe wanting to put a bit of structure on it as well, and just bring the game back towards them, I think, and back in their control.
Almost half an hour gone in this first half. To the tail, the Barbarians go, and they set up the maul. Line out over, says Frank Murphy. And the Barbarians really rolling through this. Same maul, says Frank Murphy, and that maul is heading towards that try line. The ball is taken off the back, and it is grounded. Christian Dacey is the man who comes up holding it. The hooker dotting down for the Barbarians. Second try of the game, and you could tell that maul was just going to roll Munster out of its way. Two of the Munster players very slow getting back to their feet. Brian Gleeson and Edwin Adogbo.
Are we allowed to say that we're disappointed with the Barbarians scoring maul tries and maybe not putting 15 men in there and doing their usual, but it's effective at the moment, and they're keeping themselves in the game, which I think is massively important for this spectacle, that they don't let Munster score their structure tries, and that the Barbarians are playing all this offloading game without being effective. They're also playing an effective game, so it's adding to the game here, I think.
Well, it's closer than we thought it would be, considering the start that Munster had. It looked early doors that Munster might tear this Barbarian team apart, and instead the Barbarians have come back into this. If Dumora adds the extras, 21-14.
Let's maybe not remind Munster that there's 3 retirees on the opposition, 2 starting, 1 who claims he's not retired on the bench, but Aaron Shingler coming out of retirement for this. Christian Dacey came out of retirement for his home club, but it's not the level that he'd be playing at here, so Munster maybe can push the pace a small bit more and just test the mettle of the Barbarians, I think.
And we are seeing the first replacement of the day. It seems as though Edwin Adogbo has come out of the team. Might be a blood substitution, or possibly a HIA.
No problem, thank you.
Joey Carberry will start us, but Brian Gleeson is still having his head dressed for an injury.
Are they making substitutions, guys? Ask Niall there, please. Have they made them?
Frank Murphy looking for some clarity. It is a blood substitution. And so Tom Ahern is on.
Okay. Time on.
Great to see him back
Time's on. Let's go,
this
Pete.
season. A real prospect at second row.
Former back, would you believe? But when you see him opening up his legs, you'd believe it. At 6'9", I'm not sure whoever decided that he'd be in the back line, but what a cheat code in the line out.
6'9". He's no small man. Kickoff is good, really well taken in the air from Aaron Shingler. Munster thought to put some pressure on, but that's better. Restart. Nakarawa on the carry, needs a little bit of support and gets it from Johan Goujon.
Use it, 9.
Jonathan Ruru told.
Okay, that's enough, please.
Puts the boot on. This one is going to go to touch. Good clearing kick from the scrum half to take the play back into Munster's half. 21-14 the score.
I know, I can see.
And I think someone from the Barbarians forgot to tell Calvin Nash about the gentleman's agreement, because he's after hammering 2 people in the tackle. He's chasing absolutely everything on kick chase. But that's what the Munster coach are looking for. That's why you can see his stock rising so quickly in Irish camp during the summer. Very unfortunate to miss out on the World Cup squad, but I'm sure he'll be looking to bounce back from that as well. But the basics are there, and it's really good to see.
To the tail, taken off the top from Brian Gleeson.
Over the 15, he's onside.
And Shingler working hard to put pressure on. Munster have, but it's slow coming back. Wycherley on the carry, bursting through Christian Dacey. Lovely carry from Finian Wycherley. Carberry's in midfield for Frisch. Frisch with a little show and go and bursting through. He's looking for the offload. Munster support players too slow getting there. Coughlin looks one way and comes back the other instead. Gleeson stepping out of one tackle, goes to ground, but he's a little bit isolated now. Coughlin to Carberry in midfield. Carberry for Wycherley. Wycherley for Daly. Daly, it's thrown awkwardly and bounces awkwardly. And Jack O'Donoghue has gone to ground on this wing. Did well to stay in play. Tom Ahern against Jonathan Ruru. The second row versus the scrum half. Coughlin to Carberry. Carberry, little dink over the top. There are chasers on for this. If it'll bounce nicely for Frisch, it doesn't. The ball bouncing just awkwardly, and now Nans Dusang looking to right out. Ball dinking awkwardly back, and Shea McCarthy gets his hands on it, and what kind of gap can he see? Inside and out, gets the offload, and Munster suddenly have numbers down this wing if they can use them. Stepping back inside, Carberry this way and that. Onto the ground he goes. Munster still have, looking for the little tip on. The ball is knocked backwards, and suddenly it's a foot race. Jonathan Ruru versus Rory Scannell. Ball is awkward and loose, and it's been collected and dotted down. And the referee says it's knocked on the ground. From Jonathan Ruru, frenetic stuff for a couple of minutes there, and it looked as though the Barbarians might level this game, Johnny.
Yeah, and I think we're actually seeing, unfortunate, was it a knock-on or a misplaced pass on the kind of minus pass from the pot of 3, and a bit of a turnover and a foot race to the line. Rory Scannell did really well there after being involved in the attack, breaking down the right-hand side. He was the one that got back there and upset Jonathan Ruru and not letting him have a clean run at the line, because otherwise we would see a draw game, and Munster definitely don't want to make a competition out of this one. I think they're trying to soften the Barbarians' cough, but it's not really working out at the moment.
As it stands, 21-14 to the home team. The Barbarians very much in this game, and some of the inaccuracy from Munster has cost them in terms of points not achieved and in terms of the territory they've had to give up. Scrum collapses. Frank Murphy wants a reset. Just 4 minutes or so left in this half. Munster will want to see out the half, certainly without conceding. But if they can get themselves back down to the far side of the pitch where they want to be playing, inside the Barbarians 22.
I tuned out a small bit from what you were actually saying there. It says, listen to Frank Murphy giving out about people swearing and cursing, which is maybe tells you what happened in the last couple of minutes. It's not as exciting as we think it is if that's what he's going on about.
Set.
Some salty language from the forwards. Who would have expected it?
Use it.
Coughlin being told to use it. He's been knocked back over his own line, and the ball has been touched down, and it's going to be a 5-metre scrum. Massive effort from Vadim Kobilash and Christian Dacey, Rodrigo Neddy. That front row really doing some damage to Munster there.
Yeah, the Moldovan, I think we've slagged him a bit too much maybe about his age, but he's showing his worth there. I mean, 40 years old, you don't get there without experience, and playing a long time in France, you know, and obviously well able to scrummage, giving Josh Wycherley a good run out at the moment.
And so, advantage Barbarians as we come to the end of this first half. This is a prime attacking opportunity for the team black and white. Jonathan Ruru having a chat with Demora about what's going to be on the cards.
Bind. Sit. Stay there.
In they go. Ball is at the back.
Use it.
Nakarawa wants his hands on it. He picks it and it looks as though it's been scattered and gone loose, and Munster have done really, really well. Advantage is over. The ball knocked backwards and Shea Daly fly hacking it. Bounces uncomfortably for Munster and well for the Barbarians. Nans Dusang has hands on it and he's on the ground. And Munster with a huge counter ruck. Ball is loose. Jean-Baptiste Dubuis with the clearing kick. The Moldovan, the front row for the Barbarians, slow getting back, and there are numbers and a gap, an opportunity for Shane Daly to run through the first man. He goes to ground. Munster want quick ball. Archer tipping on to Finian Wycherley. Ethan Coughlin has hands on it. Scannell is in midfield and Carberry. The backdoor option is there, and Daly and Antoine Frisch tips it on for Calvin Nash, and Calvin Nash stepping this way, that, back, inside, outside, breaks out of one. The offload was not good. And Calvin Nash had them all beaten if he could have got that ball to hand. But unfortunately not, and there's a lovely little dink over the top, and Shane Daly now has to doesn't realise he's under pressure from Tauzan behind him. If he's not careful, and he's been knocked. The ball knocked backwards. Shane Daly didn't know how close Tauzan was and eating up that gap. Huge tackle. The referee says it was brought back by red, and it will be another 5-metre scrum. You have to wonder though, Johnny, how many more scrums have Rodrigo Netti and Vadim Kobilash have got it, because they were very slow coming back.
There's
from
the
that
open lace. I think the laces just untied themselves as the scrum was being called. But you can see Munster out on their feet as well. Like Shane Daly, I think, was feeling the pace of that. He was the one getting back, but everyone's feeling the pace. There's a lot of people down on a knee, so you can see that the pace that the game's been played at. But I think starting that kind of turnover, Ethan Coughlin got his own back. You know, he got his hand in on there on Nakarawa there at the back of the scrum and got the turnover. Shea McCarthy bringing up the line, and Munster really strong on the counter ruck. But again, it's going end to end, and it's going to be fairly tough for these players. They're going to want to get to half time, particularly the front rows on the Barbarian side. But you know, we're looking at the scrum and how much pressure they're putting on Munster. But you have to look at, you know, Nettie there on the loose head side, built like a tight head, 124 kilos. When you look at Josh Wycherley, reportedly 108. You know, there's a big difference there, and a lot of pressure going through the front row. It's not all about weight, but it certainly helps when you look at Stephen Archer at roughly 120 kilos as the tight head, and the loose head on the other side is bigger. You know, so that's maybe putting it into a bit of context, and maybe why those guys are blowing a bit more as well, carrying the extra weight.
It will be the Barbarian scrum, 5 metres out from that Munster line again. This is where they've been living for the last 10 minutes or so, deep inside Munster territory, putting pressure on this red defence.
Out of the pocket, you can be behind the ball up high, but out of the pocket.
As the front rows get ready to go again, Munster look hungry for it, ready for it. They want to get at this
Bind.
Barbarian scrum if they can.
Sit.
And Jonathan Ruru feeds in.
No.
It's at the back.
He's onside behind the ball.
Ruru into midfield. It's a lovely little pass inside, but Munster closed the door. Doing really well and trying to get hands on it while they're at it. The carry from Goujon. Shingler. Ball pops up and is loose and was not forward. The referee says no, we're playing on, no knock-ons.
Thank you.
Sofiane Guiton has it. Munster squeezing that possession. We're over the 40 minutes now. Whatever happens next is the last action of the game. Barbarians carrying heavy, looking to move it now out the line, and there is space, and it's gone through hands, and one by one they're queuing up, and the Barbarians will get the score to level this game on the stroke of half-time, and it's cantered in for a superb score. We've seen hardly anything in this game out of Toby Arnold, and then right at the end popping up with the score to bring Barbarians back within 2. They'll surely add the extras, and we will go into the half level at 21 points apiece. And, well, it was impressive stuff from the Barbarians.
It is impressive, and Toby Arnold finishing that one off is, a lot of appearances in the French league. With Leon over 200 appearances, and he's played sevens as well, so you don't doubt their finishing ability. I think Munster started that phase with very good two-man hits, and that's what they want off the set piece. We saw Rory Scannell and Joey Carberry teaming up there to stop the Barbarians' attack. We saw a second two-man hit, and after that it got a bit loose. One person hits and maybe not square on, and the defence wasn't as square as they'd like to be, and that's when you get a bit of a read from Shane Daly, but there's numbers all over him there, and Barbarians just can't bring in the end.
Dumora lines this up as Munster come out to interfere. Daly puts his hands in the air, but the referees have the flags up. And so the game is level at half-time. Vadim Kogalash slow leaving the pitch. He's going to enjoy this bit of a breather. The story of that half, Johnny, missed opportunities from Munster, a little bit of inaccuracy.
Inaccuracy, I think there's a lot of inaccuracy on both sides, but I think the Barbarians won't care. They're just out to throw the ball around. And not to disrespect that, I think that's the way they play the game. So they're looking to make it unstructured because they don't really have the structures when you're coming together for a couple of days or a week at a time. So they're looking to make it as unstructured as possible. You would have thought that would suit Munster. Munster like the unstructured, they like the ball and play time being up, but at the moment it is forcing some mistakes. And I don't know how greasy it is out there, but the handling is a bit suspect at times. Now there's, at times we saw that Munster attack. You can see them popping up from each other's pockets. Shane Daly does that really well. Calvin Ash does it really well. And you saw from a midfield scrum, and maybe midway through the second half, the ball went from Ethan Coughlin through the centres to Joey Carberry at the back, and Shane Daly popped up on his outside, and we thought, here we go, we're starting to see some of the Munster attacking structures put in place by Mike Prendergast. But I think it's been few and far between having that cohesion in there. We spoke about it at the start, and it's maybe a buzzword we keep using with Munster, but they're in week 13 of their season. They've had a very long pre-season, the longest they've had. That's why there's a week or two between their games, because they're trying to space it out. The URC isn't starting for another couple of weeks, so it's a good run out for them. I think they've been challenging a load of areas, but they definitely want to get a bit more effective themselves as well.
Well, the score at half-time is 21 apiece. And if perhaps Munster will be disappointed as a spectacle, it's certainly interesting. And going into the second half, we'll be hoping for more of the same. For now, we will take a very, very short break, and we will be back with full coverage of the second half before you know it. Well, Munster want that quick ball they have, and there's a gap, and through the gap Munster burst, and there are options outside. It's a popped up, it's going to be carried all the way to the line, and a superb score for Dermot Barron. Carberry sizing this one up and slots it. Coughlin pops it up, and Shane Daly one-handed. Little bit showy, but gets the job done, and it's through the hands, and Munster still having the opportunity is there, and Antoine Frisch, no, it's Joey Carberry rounding the last man, walking behind the post. That one over, and even Kerry was into traffic, but Munster more than willing to make those tackles. Edwin Adogbo was up that time. Lovely little back wrap around, and the pass inside to Duseng, and Nans Duseng is going to run in for the Barbarians' first try of the game. Munster stretched. We did say that this team can attack, can threaten. Dumora slots that over, and it's 14. And you're very welcome back to Thomond Park from what we're hoping will be a very exciting second half of rugby. And this, the last of 4 quarters of rugby between Munster and the Barbarians. We started this morning or this afternoon with the women's team against the women's Barbarians. Now, the last 40 minutes of a feast of rugby today will see the men's team in the second half against the men's Barbarians team with the scores level at 21 apiece. What do Munster need to do to win this game?
Well, I think, we've spoken about the conditions, which aren't hectic, but there is a win there, and I think we possibly didn't see enough control out of the Munster halfbacks. I think if they're looking to improve, they definitely want a small bit more there, and the opportunity will be there with the wind at their back to maybe, force the pressure on Barbarians, make them make a few mistakes, and capitalise early on so they can get themselves back in the game.
Loan Goujon, if you've seen from your pictures, doing a lovely dance as he made his way out onto the pitch. This just shows some of the attitude towards these games. The Barbarians want to be playing with a smile on their face. This is going to be fun. That's how they want this game going. But presumably, they also want to win this.
Absolutely. I think the fun in anything is winning it, but I think they'll brush it off a lot quicker afterwards if they don't, because they're going to go on a night out around Limerick, I'd imagine. But just looking at half time there, we saw some underage games with Shannon and Scariff, but Skibbereen were also there, and I think it's disappointing for those lads travelling up. We saw Gavin Coombs obviously not starting the game, and his sister played the earlier game, so big day for Skibbereen, but unfortunately Gavin didn't end up togging out. But Brian Gleeson has been a really good replacement, and he's been rampaging as well the way Gavin would have been.
That is the change from the published starting team. For those late joining, myself, Dan Mooney, in commentary alongside Johnny Holland. Just before kick-off, the replacement, Gavin Coombs, Brian Gleeson, and Evan O'Connell coming into the bench. Frank Murphy blasts the whistle, and Joey Carberry gets the second half underway. Long, high-hanging kick, and the Barbarians will look to run it out from the 22 and play with that abandon that they played with in the first half. Big, heavy clear out from Nakarawa.
Use it.
And Jonathan Ruru puts his boot on it. Adogbo trying to put him back under pressure. That wind has really caused that ball to swirl around in the air, and suddenly Munster have it, and Gleeson has hands on it and bursts through the gap. Big fend with his right hand, pops it up to Antoine Frisch. Frisch is going to head for the line, doesn't get there, he's just short. Munster want that ball back. It's right on the line. Frank Murphy is saying the ball is there.
Advantage offside.
Advantage for offside as Munster look to get forward and ground that ball, and they have grounded that ball. And who else but for his second try? It's Brian Gleeson, that man again. The short range power to burst over that line. There was absolutely nobody going to stop him getting over that line from that range, that distance. He's got so much power.
Yeah, and I think we maybe saw the effects of the win, because I thought Jonathan Ruru was very good in the first half, and then maybe not the best box kick from him, just sitting up in the wind a small bit, and then when it came back down he had a bit of a wild offload attempt. But Ethan Coughlin in his face, we see a bit of a change of fortunes between the two of them from the first half, and then Brian Gleeson, like we said, a rampaging run and getting back on the ball then to finish it off again. Through
the gap he went, big right-handed fend. Joey Carberry is going to dink that one over the bar, and does, and Munster are back in the lead in this game, 28-21. They'll be pleased to have got that score early on. Less than 2 minutes into the second half. It was just over 1 minute in the first half when they scored the opening try, so it's a good early start. Leone Nakarawa knocks that one back, but it's badly knocked back and into space, and Shane McCarthy is gone. Into his hands he goes, and he disappears into the distance and dots that ball down under the posts to huge celebrations from his teammates behind. Shane McCarthy simply vanished once the ball was put into his hands. There was never going to be anyone catching him.
Yeah, he's got serious pace, but I thought it was a small bit of trouble for Munster. They've been done kind of on the short restarts a small bit, and Nakarawa got his hand to that ball, but it made it loose, and was a Shane Daly pouncing it, got a nice little offload away to Shane McCarthy, but once he opens up his legs, it's trouble catching him.
The collection from Shane Daly and the lovely offload, and there goes Shane McCarthy. And another try, 2 tries in the space of about a minute and a half, and Munster 35-21 up. They will be delighted with that as an opening to the second half.
But you know who else would be delighted with that is the subs, because the longer that game stays tight, the Munster coaches aren't going to make subs, because they did speak about this not really being a pre-season game, that they wanted to make this a very competitive game and start getting into their structures a bit more, I think, you know. So you can see they didn't make any changes at half time like they might have done in pre-season games a small bit more, but anyone sitting on the bench, I think that's going to do them a favour.
Dumora kicks off into Munster's half.
Wait.
The kick dropping. Really, McCarthy goes to collect it and he's knocked it forward. Unfortunately, it was contestable. Dumora taking it quickly and into Leone Nakarawa at the halfway line. Little step from him and then an offload back in the direction of Dupuis. Munster trying to get on it. Slow ball. Ruru, Dumora. High and dropping. Carberry's underneath and collects it, and Shane Daly gets his hands on it and loves to run with his head up, and Rory Scannell to Frisch and into the Jack Daly's hands, and Daly bursting forwards. He wants to get that offload. Ethan Coughlin's at the bottom to Archer. Archer straight at Nettie. And Munster moving this ball and really going through the hands quite well, and Antoine Frisch is on it. There are options inside and out. Frisch popping it up, and Stephen Archer with a burst of pace. He's not going to make it to the line. The ball is loose. Munster pick it up. Calvin Nash, and the ball has been chucked loose. Still loose. Shea McCarthy steps this way, steps that, gets the offload, and the try is scored. After some frantic moments of rugby, it's Josh Wycherley who finally puts it down. It was loose. It was a little bit all over the place, but Munster stay cool. They get the offload into the hands of Wycherley, and Wycherley touches it down to make it 40-21. How do we make it that try?
I think you gave Stephen Archer way too much credit. It was the pace of Diarmuid Barron that we saw again, wasn't it? But actually very interesting in the attack. We've seen a couple of glimpses of Antoine Frisch and maybe the basics that he brings to the game that are so powerful. How he stays very square in attack, how he buys the decision from the defender's hips. But Shane Daly did the exact same thing there, popping up from the pocket of other players, and they're just so key to the Munster attack and beating defenders at the moment.
It's outstanding work from Munster. A silo of tries in the opening 6 minutes of this second half. 3 tries scored, not even 6 minutes on the clock. Joey Carberry wants to add the extras. 100% off the tee for him so far today. As we see the beginning of those substitutions, you're right, it was Diarmuid Barron and not Stephen Archer. I shouldn't be so surprised.
I just don't want to give Archer too much credit.
Carberry is going to hook that one inside, and he has. That's a superb conversion from Joey Carberry, still 100% off the tee, and it's now 42-21.
Converted by Joey Carberry, Munster 42, Barbarians 21.
And with Diarmuid Barron gone to the bench, it'll be Niall Scannell who'll make his way into this team. An experienced hooker. A short restart, once again putting Munster under pressure. Leone Nakarawa, but Ethan Coughlin collects and he steps this way and that, and eventually he's gone to ground, and Munster will want to protect that ball. And their scrum half is at the bottom of it. Carberry popping it up for Niall Scannell, his first interaction in this game. Dodbo lengthens the ruck. Coughlin is at the back, he's got hands on it. High, hanging, that's a good kick. It's probably too far for Shea McCarthy to get his hands on it, and Nans Dosan goes running. Great tackle from Jack Daly in midfield and putting pressure on this Barbarians team. Dumora inside to Dupuis. Jean-Baptiste Dupuis. Show and go. And Barbarians are moving it. Aaron Shingler through their hands. And Nakarawa. Nakarawa's outside to Tom Arnold, and it's bounced awkwardly and loose. And Finian Wycherley gets his hands on it. And then Joey Carberry. And Munster look to move again. They're on the attack. Shane Daly, he's been threatening with ball in hand all game long.
Ball clearly out.
To Frisch. Frisch puts a boot on it. And it's going to bounce into the hands of Dumora. Dumora carrying out from his 22. He looks up and sees who's in front of him. Steps Antoine Frisch embarrassingly and sends a pass outside, and suddenly the Barbarians are on their way. They're going to go all the way to the try line. No, the pass is wayward and the ball is loose again, and they are going to get all the way to the try line. Really poor from Munster trying to clean that up, and it is going to be scored and finally touched down. It was loose and all over the place a little bit, and eventually it's popped up into the hands of Lucas Touzan, and the winger gets the try. Barbarians have one back.
I don't even know what we're supposed to say about that. I think there's a bit of a comedy of errors going on around the place. And you can give the Barbarians credit for all their support play. They're staying really alive on the inside of the ball, and they are getting passes away. But once Munster get their hands on the ball, there they want to kind of settle it down and get their exits. But they're kind of in two minds, But I think the start of that play, again, we're looking at Demora and just that nonchalance that he has. You don't expect him to step the way he did, and it was very, very effective, which got them on the front foot and moving.
An outstanding step from Demora. Antoine Frisch will not want to see that one again. He was sent for the messages. We're seeing a bit of a show from Laurent Goujon, having a lot of fun on the sideline. And you love to see it. Playing with a smile on his face. And that is the start of a raft of changes for the Barbarians. And indeed, changes for Munster too. Out comes Ethan Coughlin. In comes Neil Cronin for Munster. It looks as though the entire front row is going to be changed for the Barbarians. Kirby Meehill, Rod Evans and Tavita Tatafu are in as the extras are added.
Try for Barbarians converted
From
by
Demora,
number 10.
making it
Demora makes a score of Munster
42-28.
Barbarians 28.
14.
We've seen 10 tries already in this game. No more than you'd expect from a Barbaz match. Shane McCarthy comes out from Munster. Also Phil Giddens comes in.
And number 19, Josh
Joey Carberry
replaces number 4, Lohan Goujon.
kicks it off, dropping it into the 22 and already into the action. Big tackle from Calvin Nash. The kick chase pressure he's putting on has been exceptional. Kick is into the hands of Daly. Daly loves it. Steps this way and that. Looks to find a gap. Door closed and really closed in his face. A tackle, aggressive tackling. Stephen Archer with good hands on the inside pass. Slow to get back to his feet. Neil Cronin probes the defence and gets away from 1 and 2 and pops it up, and Adogbo's got his hands on it and he's knocked it forward, unfortunately.
Yeah, that's Josh Brennan after coming into onto the pitch, and obviously we're familiar with his family members, Trevor Brennan, but that's nice and abrasive from him. He's looking to make some hits.
Brennan, French international, future French international, by all accounts. A bit slow to get going again, as Munster have a player down for treatment. Stephen Archer did seem to be a little ginger getting up to his feet after that hit. And that will probably conclude his game, because here comes John Ryan onto the pitch to replace the senior man.
What's a substitution? Number 18, John Ryan, replacing number 3, Stephen Archer.
A fine option in terms of scrummaging calibre to be able to bring John Ryan into the game.
Yeah, and I think John Ryan's such an interesting character. I played with him in UCC in Corkon, and obviously with Munster as well, but he went on his travels after that. I think he had a stint in London Irish at some stage, but even last year playing with Wasps, going down to the Chiefs in New Zealand as well, and having a stint with Munster here, so he was all over the place last year. A great experience.
That scrum is steady on both sides, and Nakarawa picks it from the back and sends it into midfield, and it's Dubuis looking to put a little dink through for someone to chase, and it's Shane Daly who's come up to collect it. Looked as though he might have had a knock in his head, and that will want to be looked at. He is holding his head as he gets back to his feet, but the tip-on pass in midfield is excellent. Munster still have the possession and looking to go. Niall Scannell through the gap, putting the ball on the ground. There's a penalty coming from Munster. That was silly, to say the least. And they're going to be moved 10. I think someone might have had a little word with the referee, and he's decided he didn't like that.
Off feet. Back we go, lads.
Joey Carberry is going to try and get the inches out of this. Wind swirling around in Thomond Park. Carberry finds a superb touch. Munster will end up putting that ball into the line out about 10 metres or so from the Barbarians' try line. Now, how's the line out going to function with the changes that have been made? While Scannell is in. And John Ryan will be lifting. To the middle, really well taken off the top from Jack O'Donoghue. And Munster start to roll that maul. The crowd urge them forward with heave and heave.
Same ball.
Slow to get moving now. Same maul, and it's broken off the back. And Scannell with the little show and go. Have Munster got the support players? Josh Wycherley picks it and goes to the right hand side of the post. Munster start spreading players out. They need options.
Offside.
Pick and go. Advantage for offside coming to Munster.
Ball's there.
Slow
Run
at the back.
advantage.
Ball
Got
is
number
there.
20.
Aaron Shingler,
Multiple penalties, guys.
referee, not one bit happy. Multiple
Number
penalties.
7 offside.
Yeah, I think it's getting messy, but if you look at it from a Munster perspective, they push the pace of that line out, Finian Wycherley with quick movement. Niall Scannell coming off the bench with 20 Irish caps. I mean, that's the quality that they have at the moment at Munster. But it was actually Josh Brennan. I thought he did a very good job at dismantling that maul. I thought he had done it. He beat Edwin Adogbo into the front bank position, I thought, and maybe just unlucky not to pull it apart completely.
Munster tap and go with that penalty, and a lovely little reverse pass inside. Have Munster got themselves to the line? Just short. Neil Cronin marshalling the troops.
On the ball. 12 is offside. Right, captain.
The referee is going to have a little word here. Don't do it again or there'll be a yellow card, I assume, is going to be the message from Frank Murphy to Demora.
Yeah, and Brian Gleeson nearly got in there for his hat-trick try, didn't he? Very unfortunate for him.
Little reverse pass certainly was threatening. And it's going to be another tap and go again. Scannell stands over it. He's got John Ryan and Wycherley to the other side of him. Huge attempted tackle, and it's turned over, knocked forward, and the Barbarians get it and hack it clear, and there's a foot race again, and Carberry's gone all the way back to collect. He's done really well with the step and the lovely pass outside, and Munster are on the attack again, and Calvin Nash swerving this way and that, breaks out of the tackle, hits the deck. Munster still have through Neil Cronin on the far side, goes to ground. Munster want this ball back, and they want it back quick, but it's slow. Scannell again, lots of involvement since he came off the bench, popping up all over the place. Cronin to Finian Wycherley, steps into traffic. Cronin again, lovely little pop back inside. Scannell once again with the involvement, but nobody's home, and the Barbarians are able to dive on that one, recollect the possession, and it looked as though Munster would have that opportunity, and instead the Barbarians are coming away. It's a lovely little dink through, and a chase is on. Dumora gets his hands on it, looks to pass inside, surely forward. Munster want that ball into touch, and it is forward pass, eventually acknowledged by Frank Murphy. Dumora had done so well to collect that and get that pass away, but couldn't control the direction of it in the tackle.
I think a lot of people were ushering that ball to go back into touch, I think, for people to get their breath, but unfortunately, Niall Scannell with the tap and go there, and the ball just squirted away from him with a heavy hit, so the turnover happened. But we saw Calvin Nash finally get his legs opened up. I think we've been waiting for that one for a while. I thought he was going to do the defender. I thought he had him turned inside out, and I wouldn't trust anyone to tackle him on a one-on-one, so did very well to tackle him there. But again, I think Niall Scannell, he heard the call for an offload, he went for the outside. It was actually back on the inside, I think, to Neil Cronin. It's a touch away from breaking the Barbarians there again. It's very, very close. But Munster will want to, get back on the scoreboard after 3 quick tries after half time.
So clock is off as treatment is received for the Munster side. There's a few players being stitched up. Edwin Adogbo's race is run for today. He's had a good shift, a lot of work, put himself about the park, and Tom Ahern, who had replaced him as a blood substitute in the first half, comes on as a full substitute now. Frank Murphy reassuring the Barbarians at the time is still off.
I'm wondering what kind of time the coaches want Tony Butler to get. I think Joey Carberry may be playing 60 here and getting him some game time, but I think they'll be keen to see Tony Butler have another throw around the ball as well, because he's been training really well in pre-season, and I think it's very important that they do get him more game time here too.
One would imagine that bench is going to empty and everyone is going to get some game time, but as you mentioned, Johnny Holland, They are not treating this one as a pre-season
Wow.
friendly. This is a competitive game, and they want to treat it as such. So they'll be conscious of not making too many changes that would interfere with the cohesion of the team. Cronin with the feed. That's a really good scrum from the Barbarians, and they win a penalty. Rod Evans showing his calibre and experience, really getting at that Munster front row. The fresh legs. Aaron Shingler congratulates him. A little high five.
Rob Evans there is 39 caps with Wales, and you see Tatafu on the other side. You know, Tongan born, isn't he? And he's a big unit, so that scrum's not going to get any easier.
A big unit might be the understatement of the day. Tevita Tatafu is gigantic.
Number 9, Jonathan Ruru.
Jonathan Ruru is done for the day. He's had a good game for the Barbarians. Max Green is the replacement. Barbarians lineup goes to the tail, and it is Rod Evans again, that big prop rampaging through, hits one and bounces out of another tackle. And Max Green's first involvement is to pop it up for Leone Nakarawa, and Munster have managed to turn that over. Nakarawa stripped yet again, the third time he's had the ball stripped, but it's sloppy from Munster, and the Barbarians have turned it over again. Possession changing sides twice in the space of about 30 seconds. Max Green to Dupuy. Dupuy with the kick over the top, and Fionn Gibbons collects it and calls his mark. And Munster kick start straight away, looking to bounce that ball in towards touch, and it is a superb clearing kick. They could tell that Max Green wasn't ready and that there was nobody home. Damien Hoyland it is who throws it into midfield, and the referee says, not like that, lads, not like that. We're going to come back and have a better go at this.
Yeah, thankfully Damien Hoyland has come on the pitch, and you know he's a lot of experience as well, but maybe a small bit of the Barbarians coming back into him, because I think they've slowed the pace. Obviously they're tiring as well, but I don't think Fionn Gibbons was slowing the pace there. Maybe the people around him were looking for a bit of control, but he put in some kick there to get Munster a lot of relief and back into the half of the pitch they want to be playing the rugby in.
And that is Josh Wycherley's race run. As Mark Donnelly comes in. And a chance for him to go up against Tatafu. Presumably he'll relish that. To the front, and Munster have stolen that line out into midfield. Jack Daly. Carberry to Scannell to Frisch looking to burst through a tackle, and does. Cronin surely offside. Aaron Shingler was about a mile offside.
Offside and 7 behind the offside. Started offside.
Aaron Shingler surely had to have known he was more than a foot or two.
I think the communication there from Frank Murphy is that someone on the inside was setting the offside line, and he was offside, which put Aaron Shingler offside. So maybe Shingler having too much trust on his inside defenders, but he was clearly a mile in front of the offside line as well.
So Munster's penalty earns them territory right 5 metres from the line. The last line out not quite as functional as they might have liked. An opportunity now for Niall Scannell.
Hold him. Come off, just hold him there. Okay.
And is that the last of the game for Leone Nakarawa? It is. Out he comes, a fan favourite. Once again, Munster's line-out malfunctions, and the Barbarians have it inside their own 22. Munster will not be happy with that. Big, long, looping pass into the hands of Nans Dusang, and he's knocked it forward. Scannell gets his hands on it to Cronin. Cronin to Tom Ahern. Tom Ahern with lovely step, and back to Cronin again. Through the hands, Munster go, and Nash is going to go this way and that and tries to make a yard or two. Ball is on the deck. Munster have Gleeson. Big chop tackle. To Carberry now. Carberry looking out the back door, and Shane Daly has it, and into the hands of Scannell, and Scannell's knocked it forward, and the ball is well, it's got to be greasy, because we're seeing an awful lot of knock-ons and handling errors in the last few minutes.
A lot of knock-ons, yeah, but I wonder there, sometimes the referee gives a penalty for that. Rory's on the floor, on the ground, and he just made sure the ball wasn't going any further after his knock-on. But I'm looking around there, and I'm waiting to see is Virmi Vakatawa going to come onto the pitch at some stage, please, because we've been awaiting his return to rugby as well.
Joey Carberry's day is done. Johnny Holland called it. 60 minutes for Carberry, and on the 60th minute he comes out And Tony Butler goes in wearing the number 22.
But you can hear the crowd with Joey Carberry there again. Like, everybody is rooting for him. He's such a player, you know, that, you know, it's hard for Tony Butler to come on when the applause is for the person coming off. But, you know, everyone really is rooting for him, and he's such an exciting player. You know, to get him into a run of form is going to be really important for Munster.
Now, the front row didn't fare too well in the last scrum. Barbarians earned themselves a penalty.
Before set and square after.
We want to shore it up a little bit. Mark Donnelly's first outing since he's come on the pitch. Scannell and John Ryan with him. Do they have what it takes
Crouch.
to deal
Fine.
with the mountain that is Tevita Tatafu?
Set.
Good scrum from Munster. Much more steady that time round. Barbarians have Max Green into midfield. Lovely little pop up, and that's Tatafu. And the ball has been knocked forward. Munster have advantage.
First knock on advantage.
And the ball wasn't coming back, and so Munster will have to put into the scrum.
Players will leave it.
Tatafu puts his hand up and apologises. Again, another handling error. I haven't been keeping track, but
You wouldn't be able to.
Yeah.
I think this is the interesting part of the scrum, because when Munster are in their defensive scrum, they have all 6 feet on the ground, and it seems to be a little bit easier for them. It's when they go into their attacking scrum and the Babas get to have a go off them with 6 feet on the ground, when the hooker is not hooking, that's when the pressure seems to come onto Munster. So maybe we'll go for the old school Channel 1 with me and get the ball out of the scrum, and let's see if we can play a bit of rugby.
It's not going to be goofing around here. Although it is slow to get set here in Thomond Park. 20 minutes left on the clock.
Bind. Set.
Frank Murphy sets them. Neil Cronin with the feed. Steady from Munster. Picked at the back from Gleeson. And Cronin gets it away into the hands of Scannell, and it's knocked forward again. And the ball must be greasy. The unfortunate amount of unforced errors won't suit Munster.
And Rory Scannell won't be happy with himself there with 2 in a row, isn't it? But that's not like him, in fairness. And now that he's gone into his coaching role, I think he knows the frustration that can be behind that from a coach's perspective, and from himself as a player as well. So the game struggling maybe to find its flow here with a lot of substitutions, but also a lot of handling errors as well, you know, which we want to find another bit of a flow for the spectacle at the end of the game here.
You can also see in the technical area Evan O'Connell limbering up, presumably will be making an impact on this game at some point. Another giant.
Yeah, a lot of eyes on Evan O'Connell. Obviously, you know, the family, the bloodline with Paul O'Connell. But he was with the Irish under-20s in the summer. He captained the Munster A's last week as well when they played against Connacht. So, you know, he's obviously getting a lot of responsibility at the moment too, which is going to suit him.
Barbarians moving it through hands. Lovely little tip-on pass, and options are there. It's spilled, knock on, and Munster have hands back on it. They'll want to put some manners in this game, put some cohesion, and get their structures right. An advantage coming for a high tackle. Tony Butler feeding it on to John Ryan. Back into midfield again, and Frisch has his hands on it. Can he break out of that tackle? No, he cannot, and the referee says we're going to come back for the penalty for the high tackle.
Tackle just over the shoulder of the 6'9" second row. You know, so you've obviously gotten something wrong if you're getting Tom O'Hearn high.
I think I'd need a step ladder to high tackle Tom O'Hearn. Treatment being given doesn't look good. I hope nothing too serious. Middle of the pitch. 2 medics in attendance.
Yeah, I didn't see how this contact happened, but hopefully it's just a little bit more precautionary, because, you know, he was looking for the attention, and then obviously with the medical treatment you're going to have to try and keep him a bit more still. So hopefully it's precautionary and he can either leave the pitch safely or, you know, return to the game, hopefully.
It's not a scrum, lads. It's a penalty for high tackle. It's a penalty.
So the slow down of the game, the break in play, gives everyone a chance to get a bit of a breather. And thankfully back to his feet is Jean-Baptiste Dubuis. Glad to see that. He will take no further part in the game. He is coming out.
It's interesting that Tauzan is coming back in there, and Vakatawa, against all my wishes, still hasn't come onto the pitch. So maybe he's here just to lead the night out. Maybe he's having a slow return into rugby after signing with Bristol. But I think the whole stadium is waiting for him to come onto the pitch here.
Still no sign. Not even warming up down there.
Luca Tauzan replaces number 13, Jean-Baptiste Dubier.
And so Munster will have to put into the line-out. 2 line-outs now that have malfunctioned on Munster inside in the Barbarians 22. They look to improve on that with this move. They need it to go to hands to set up a decent attacking opportunity. 17 minutes still to play in this game. To the tail and really well taken off the top, and Munster with one of these set-piece routines. It's a step back into traffic.
Tackle!
And to ground. What can Munster show with this? Another burst through. Huge carry, and suddenly the Barbarians are on the back foot. Munster trying to get at it. A hat-trick try on the cards for Brian Gleeson. He's brought to ground. Scannell with a step back inside. Really good feet from the hooker. Jack O'Donoghue on the ball. To ground he goes. Slowed back.
Counter is good.
Frank Murphy was talking to one of the Barbarians players and missed the potential infringement. Munster with the pick and drive. Short, narrow. Shane Daly stepping back inside. Makes a yard. How? I don't know. Great carry from Finian Wycherley. Wycherley's at that line. He's managed to get over, and he has got it down. Finian Wycherley with the power, getting over that line. Bodies underneath him. He just about manages to get it dotted down as they tried to hold him up. Good score. Basic stuff, but Munster will be pleased to have done that well.
Yeah, I think Finian Wycherley has a friend in Frank Murphy, because I didn't see that ball hitting the grass, but maybe it did. I think Frank Murphy is saying that just before it was held up by a leg, that maybe the ball was grounded. But interestingly, the Munster set piece there was pedestrian. I didn't think they got going on that kind of breakout, but it was Neely Cronin who was very, very effective around the breakdown. He got Jack O'Donoghue into a gap, and Munster got back on the front foot, and that was the makings of the try, I think.
Very hard to tell from the replay if that ball was ever grounded.
Well, Frank Murphy was standing over it, so we're going to trust him.
Absolutely. I have every faith in referees. Tony Butler, his opportunity to add to Munster's total of 47 points, having scored 7 tries now. Butler so close. It looked like it was going, perhaps hung in the air a little bit too long, and the wind brushed it onto the post. And so 47-28, the score remains. With 7 tries scored for Munster.
And I can tell you the wind in Thomond Park is not nice to kick with, so Tony will be frustrated with that one, but it is a bit of an awkward swirling wind here.
Dumora restarts us with a kick to Fionn Gibbons. Gibbons straight into tackles. Hungry for work.
By the red player.
Munster looking to buy a penalty, holding Barbarians players in on the wrong side. John Ryan with a lovely little pass back into the hands of Frisch. It's a little bit dangerous, a little bit loose. Tony Butler gets his hands on it, looking to get himself out of the dead ball area, and finally he just kicks it. It's wayward. A slightly awkward kick, but he's done well to bounce that into touch. For half a second I thought it was going to drop into the waiting hands of a Barbarians player.
I thought he was channeling his inner Craig Cooper there. I was expecting to throw it at the back of the hand, or the crossfield kick was coming, but yeah, Munster running into their own way there, I think.
Leone Nakara coming back in for this line-out.
Well, that's a good stint from Aaron Shingler there. Having come out of retirement for this game, that is some pace for a game, you know, for him to hold on there as long, and still giving it when he didn't get the turnover that he probably did deserve inside his own 22 only a couple of minutes earlier.
Absolutely no lack of mettle for that player, and it's a lovely little off the ground training move, and the Barbarians are going to score in the corner, and they have, and it's straight off the training ground, popped back up, and it's the replacement hooker Kirby Moyle who manages to dot that down. Munster caught napping.
Yeah, and maybe it's not the flamboyance that we expected from set piece from the Barbarians, but it is a little bit of a trick play. You can see him, does he enter the line out here?
It's interesting.
He jumps out and gets back in the front, so it's it probably is a frustrating one for Munster's perspective. Like, they're the kind of things that they will be challenged with today, and if other teams are going to bring a bit of movement into the line out, you'd hope that they don't get beaten so easily.
Didn't see it coming. Barbarians did. And touching it down in the corner. Kirby Mile leaves it a difficult kick for Julian Dumora, who has been outstanding all game. All the way out on that right-hand side. Angle's awkward. And the Barbarians team captain has knocked that through the post. An outstanding conversion. Really does have something quite special about him. He's Julian Dumora.
Time's off, guys. Time's off.
Yeah, and I think if we thought the wind was blustery for Tony Butler on the other end, that's a very hard corner to kick from in Thomond Park. That was so casual, and he just stroked it over. But interestingly, that's Clement Poitrenaud and the coaching team, and Jerome Kano, isn't it, for the Barbarians. I'd say they could still line out the two of them looking very fit.
Jerome Kano, an absolute beast of a player in his day. And Munster have knocked it on from that restart, and so there's a knock-on advantage coming. The Barbarians are running it out, and Arnold goes on a bit of a rampage, but the door is closed in his face. Munster look to put that pressure on. Evan O'Connell getting himself about and into the work. Popped up and into midfield they go, and Dumora's got hands on it, and through the line it goes, and the Barbarians are motoring now up to the halfway line and into Munster's half just about. Munster competing, they want that ball into midfield. Leone Nakarawa again.
17, offside.
An advantage coming for an offside against Mark Donnelly, and the referee says have it, and the Barbarians tap and go. Munster do well to get back 10 just about, I would think. Nakarawa in midfield, Myhill with a little tip on. Tatafu is there for backup, and now Rod Evans on a carry, and Munster this time around really strong getting over it. Looked to be excellent work from the Munster players putting the pressure on. Tom Ahern's pleased. There's not very many people could stand over Leone Nakarawa and look down at him.
Not too many, but Tom Ahern is doing it. And I think the frustrating thing there for Munster is that there's actually, I know they were on the back foot there, but that's the thing they don't want to be, is on the back foot. And any team getting like 2 and 3 passes on the gain line against you, a tip pass to, like, was it Nakarawa had a tip pass and someone else got another pass off, and I think that's the really frustrating thing from a defensive perspective. And I think Dennis Leamy will be having a couple of chats, I think, on Monday morning.
It seems that Calvin Nash has picked up some form of injury. Hopefully it's simply precautionary, but he's come out of the game with just over 10 minutes left to play, and Ethan Cochran comes back in and will presumably play as an auxiliary. Will have to go out onto the wing.
And this will be a frustrating one for Mark Donnelly. I think he had an injury in the last couple of weeks that he's coming back from, and he's down on the ground there getting a few checks from the physio, so hopefully for his sake it's not too much.
Yeah, back on his feet, I would hope. No more than a cramp or a small adjustment, though I do see Josh Wycherley trying to make his way back onto the pitch. So it seems as though Mark Donnelly is going to be done. Josh Wycherley hanging around, itching to get back in.
The bantering man is just strolling back onto the pitch, isn't he?
And he is back into the fray. Comes Josh Wycherley. Mark Donnelly is coming out. It's a bit of a ginger limp as he makes his way off the pitch. You'd have to hope that this is not something significant or long term.
Yeah, it's a funny one because he did test it as if he was going to have another go, but now he is limping off the pitch, so it's tough on him now after coming onto the pitch and not playing too many minutes. And I think he's getting a bit of attention from his teammates because they would have known that he was injured in the last couple of weeks, and it's a frustrating time for players when they go from one injury to another, you know.
Well, we wish him the best. As a round of applause from the fans here in Thomond Park as Mark Donnelly makes his way out. The penalty takes Munster over the 10-metre line inside in the Barbarian half. 12 points in this game. It's much closer than you would think it is. Really well taken off the top and into midfield. And Butler with a little show and go. Tony Butler looking to break all the way through. He's popped it up. And there's a knock on in midfield. It looked as though a player was tackled early. And another knock on. And then kicked into touch. So we'll come back for the first knock on. I just wonder, was there a little bit taken out before
I think Neil Cronin was just very on top of Tony Butler there, and Tony made an unbelievable line break. And I think from a coach's perspective there, yes, if you can get the offload, you're in behind, then you might get into try scoring territory. But if you're unsure of it at all, you know, you build a bit of momentum, you maybe just bring that into a fast ruck, because a fast ruck is as good as an offload if it's fast enough, you know. So forcing the offload there, it's a one phase play and turnover, and it's a one phase play from the Barbarians in turnover. So it's a bit frustrating to watch at the moment. We're not getting any maybe sustained period of play.
A lot of handling errors, as we mentioned before. Not necessarily to do with the replacements and substitutions. The weather has been pretty good. Clouds have cleared. Nice mild evening. But that ball just will not stay in hand. And off the Barbarians go, looking to move it. A little kick through. There is a chase on. Collected from Daly in the backfield. He's to ground. Munster want that ball quick. Into midfield they go, looking for the tip on. Tom Ahern wanted it. Gets himself into position to contribute. Butler tips it on for John Ryan. And there was not enough Munster support in there to clear out. And the Barbarians have turned it over, and it's a little tap and go. Rod Evans kicking that one up into the air rather than tapping it. The Barbarians take it past the 10, inside Munster's half. Nakarawa in midfield gets the offload. Munster looking to gobble up players, but the Barbarians are making yards. Max Green flings it to Demora. Demora sees the backdoor option is available, and there's a step back inside, and Munster have to be careful here. They've just about scragged a tackle in order to stay in this one. Josh Brennan on the carries, massive player, needs a little bit of support. Tom Ahern thinks that he can get his hands on that ball. To the ground it goes. Max Green popping it up. Munster closing the door. Barbarians still have. Looking to get at Munster. Nakarawa's on the ground. Brought down. Josh Brennan gets himself back in, but Munster had turned that ball over superbly. And I think it was Tom Ahern again at the bottom of that. And Munster have the possession.
Give me a step, please.
Slow coming back. Neil Cronin wants the ruck lengthened. And eventually the kick. Dropping awkwardly. Really well taken from Damien Hoyland, and he throws into midfield, and the Barbarians looking to build, but there's not much in the way of support. Hands on it now for the out half, Julian Demora. Barbarians going backwards. Munster hunting in packs. John Ryan looked to get on that really good counter ruck. Hoyland to Nans Duseng. Duseng steps back inside. Just brought to ground by Jack Daly. Popped up into the hands. Baptiste Hugoy into midfield. Tatafua. Munster looked to get on it. Ball is loose and picked up on the ground. Frank Murphy says it's played off him, and so it has to be a scrum. Tafu was getting himself about, and once again a lot of these Barbarians players look pretty winded.
Yeah, like it was such an excellent exit from Neil Cronin, but I don't think there's too many people thanking Damien Hoyland for throwing that one back in. But you know, we spoke about maybe a bit of trickery from the Barbarians. Unfortunately, the only thing we've really seen at the moment is that line out, and the only other one was Rob Evans doing a Gary Owen tap and go. So there was a small bit of trickery in there maybe, but you can see as well Leone Nakarawa, you know, he's carrying the ball. There's a double hit on him, and they think they've got their job done, and he's still able to get an offload away. You know, imagine trying to play against that. He's 35. I'm not saying that he should be slowing down. I like when players of that vintage are driving on, but you know, trying to get through two tackles and still having the wherewithal to get the offload away, it must be very frustrating for Munster this deep into a game to have to do a double tackle and a third person getting there as well.
Did also see that interesting moment where he managed to hold the ball at arm's length up into the sky. A big round of applause as Barbarians players make way. Fresh legs in for the team in black and white.
Time's on, let's go.
Frank Murphy calls time back on. There's about 6.5 minutes left in this game.
Replaced by number 9, Jonathan Ruru.
Ruru coming back in, Dusing
Crouch.
out.
Bind.
Max Green will feed into this Barbarian scrum. Picked from the back and off they go, looking to get that attacking pattern. It's awkward, the ball bounces
First
loose.
one by white.
The knock on just shows how broken
Second one by
and
red. One red.
loose this game has become in the last few minutes. And
I think you can see how greasy that ball is. That's from a fella trying to pass the ball, and it's annoying. Like, you know, they're not just going to knock on the ball so much. So it is very greasy, but you know, it's taken away from the finish to this spectacle.
Red ball. Knock on white.
Munster will have to feed. Neil Cronin has some options and some ideas. He organises and reorganises that back line. Presumably he has a strike play in mind.
Crouch.
Munster players spreading out in the backfield as Frank Murphy instructs the forwards to get into position. Huge scrum from the Barbarians sends Munster backwards, so they do keep the possession, and through the hands they go, and Shane Daly stepping this way and that before he's brought to ground. Neil Cronin wants this. Clear out is really good from Jack O'Donoghue. Daly back on his feet, and once again Munster players looked as though Niall Scannell's gone off his feet to try and seal that ball off, or to protect the ball, but he's just sealed it off.
That's frustrating because there was actually a penalty in the breakdown beforehand. You know, as it, Max Green came in the side there. Yeah, he didn't really touch the line, but he definitely disrupted him, and he was in the side while he was doing it. Possibly 2 penalties within that, and that's why Jack O'Donoghue gave him a shot in the ribs, I think, legally. But I think the action beforehand was illegal, and now Munster, after being penalised and back inside deep in their own 22.
Opportunity then for another trick play, perhaps. Kirby Mile, the replacement hooker. 6-7-man line out to the tail it goes, and it's overthrown really badly, and Tony Butler gets his hands on it and tries to make a little break. It was a good tackle for a finish. Ball is loose, collected by Tom Ahern. To ground he goes. John Ryan in, pillar support. Referee is telling Rod Evans to stay out of the way, and Cronin is told he has to use it. He's going to put some sky on this. Up it goes. Is it contestable? Fionn Gibbons looks to try and get underneath it. Really well taken by Toby Arnold. Munster looking to put that pressure on.
Advantage, not rolling. Slowing the ball.
Absolutely rolled away there. He was going the wrong direction, in fairness to Frank Murphy, but I think the Barbarians made sure that he got in the way.
Bit of experience from them. Demora has it. Still advantage, and he steps back inside, and a lovely little offload, and suddenly the Barbarians are motoring again.
No.
Munster looking to put some pressure on. It's slow ball for the Barbarians. Still advantage. Frank Murphy assures them. Ball is tipped on. Evans with a lovely little throw into the hands of Brennan. Brennan is dragged to the ground, and the referee says there's no advantage, and so we're going to come back.
Not rolling away, no advantage. Number 6.
I can argue that he was rolling away, certainly trying to roll away.
I think that's the thing that we're being told. If he goes east-west, you know, he's going to get out of the way of that play. And sometimes the legs do catch you in there, and the players are doing that on purpose. Unfortunately for Jack O'Dare, he's gone north-south, and that's where the referee maybe needs to give him that communication that you are rolling away. I can see you're making the effort, but you're still disrupting the ball, and you're still disrupting the pace of the ball for the Barbarian. So yes, you're making an effort, but it's in the wrong direction, and you can maybe feed that back to your coaches if it's something you want to work on, you know.
The penalty conceded. Another opportunity for Mile. This time the feed is good. Front of the line out and sets up a maul, and the Barbarians look to get some traction and get themselves moving towards the line. Josh Wycherley and Tatafu having a bit of a set to there. Munster have managed to steal that one, wriggle it away, but Barbarians get their hands back on it. Lovely little tip on pass, looking to put some. The ball is knocked on in midfield. Not tremendously happy with that outcome. The Lucas Tosan.
You know, just as the game is kind of stuttering away to a close here, I've been getting a little bit of PTSD from some of Tony Butler's actions. He's getting away beautifully, and I think he has lovely actions in attack. It's maybe just the final action with the ball in hand. You know, he got away in the opposition 22 there earlier, maybe just forcing the offload. I think he got away there a small bit as well inside the zone 22, but maybe just not setting that ball back. You know, very certainly towards where his support is coming from, and maybe a bit of a kick, and it just disrupts your attack a small bit in terms of the certainty for other guys joining it. But again, not to be too critical, I have vivid memories of moments like that where I've given the ball away myself, so it's just not getting too excited when you get through and making sure you keep a calm head to know what the next action is.
Sharp blast of the whistle from Frank Murphy. Munster penalty at the scrum. I think that is the first and only scrum penalty Munster have had in 80 minutes of rugby. We're into the final minute of this game. 47-35. 12 tries in total. Can't complain too much about a game of rugby in which you get to see 12 tries.
Yeah, I think Ian Foster might have a bit of an opinion on maybe ball and play time and the amount of tries that we get to see. But again, like, doubling down on that point is we've seen loads of tries, but we haven't seen, you know, the kind of cohesive game plan that we thought we might have seen, and it does add to the kind of enjoyment of the game when you get a really competitive game with less errors as opposed to high score, high try count with a lot of errors included, like, you know.
It has been an error-strewn game, particularly in this second half. A little bit of grease on that ball. We've just tipped over the 80-minute mark. Whatever happens next will be the last action, and Max Green collects it for the Barbarians, and off they go, looking to finish this game with a score. Add some gloss onto the scoreboard. Losing bonus point if they can get a score on the board, and they're moving that ball really well and bursting through the gap. It's gone backwards, and they still have Ruru, and that one's knocked on. John Ryan dives on it. Munster have it, and they look to get going. They have numbers here if they can move that ball. Frisch with the lovely little offload into the hands, and Ethan Coughlin has it. Ethan Coughlin heading towards the 22. He's burst all the way through. He's got the offload into hands, and it's a superb finish. That whole length of the pitch try. Neil Cronin is the one who gets it down. Ethan Coughlin's offload was outstanding. A superb try to round this game out after a massive burst down that wing.
And you know, I gave Anton Frisch a couple of nods throughout the game just because of how he attacks and how square he is, but you can see him kind of teeing up the inside pass and squaring his hips again to give the ball to Rory Scannell, who, you know, he's had a couple of handling errors that I said were not like him, and there you can see that how unlike him it was, because his handling was very good to get the ball to Ethan Coughlin on the wing, and the 9 setting up the inside support line from the other 9, Neil Cronin, to go over the line, and a little bit of a gloss on the scoreboard, and finish with a bit of a flurry here at the end as well.
We're going to finish on a high note. It takes the score to 52-35 to Munster, and that's what the fans who've come out here to see, this is what they wanted to see. Tries and a bit of excitement. The last few minutes has been stodgy in terms of the performance, but that sends us off on a high note. Tony Butler, the opportunity to add the extras. Difficult kick from all the way out that side.
I think these are important moments for someone like Tony, because you don't get, as a young player, you don't get too many in-game kicks at a level like this, you know, so it again adds to the kind of resilience and the mental toughness that you have if you can kind of stay in the game and stroke this one over to finish it off.
High and hanging. Is it going to come back inside? No, it is not. It crosses the face of the posts, and that will not be any extras, but a good outing nonetheless from Tony Butler. Munster have done fantastically well. 52 points to 35. Johnny, talk us through it.
Yeah, look, I think there was a lot of excitement around what could happen in attack, and I think we did see a lot of intent in the attack as well. We saw a lot of offloading, but maybe for whatever reason, I think there's a lot of grease on that ball and maybe forcing the play a small bit. But it's one of those that you're playing against the Barbarians. I think you'll review it, and I think defensively you can definitely review it because you get a lot of stress in your defensive line from their attack. But, you know, we saw a lot of really good players like Calvin Nash at moments, Shane Daly at moments, but they didn't have sustained kind of moments within the game. And again, that's not down to them playing poorly. I think it's down to the kind of environment that's created by an exhibition game against the Barbarians, you know. So I think taking some learnings from it without going too deep on it, because it is one of those kind of outliers where you're not going to see that kind of a game in the URC. But, you know, Munster maybe won't learn a massive amount from it, but what they will get from it is that they want to play the game with a lot of high ball and play minutes, you know, and they got that definitely. And when they didn't push it, the Barbarians pushed it, and you know, whether it was all pretty or not, they definitely got a good hit out of a pace of a game that they're going to try and bring to the league again this year if they're going to try and go back to back.
I felt a little tired myself looking at them running around. High ball in play time. A feast of tries. In total, 13 of them across the 80 minutes that we saw. And that concludes our coverage today of both of these. An historic moment for Thomond Park, with the Munster women's team taking on the Barbarian women's, and then this evening's Tri-Fest, 52-35 the final score between the Munster men's team and the Barbarian men's team. I'd like to thank sincerely Johnny Holland for keeping me company for this game. Dan Mooney signing off from Thomond Park. A final score here, Munster 52, Barbarians 35. Thanks for joining us. Shane McCarthy, and he carries it really well. Munster want that quick ball they have, and there's a gap, and through the gap Munster burst, and there are options outside. It's a popped up, it's going to be carried all the way to the line, and a superb score for Dermot Barron. Carberry sizing this one up and slots it. Coughlin pops it up, and Shane Daly one-handed, a little bit showy, but gets the job done, and it's through the hands, and Munster still having the opportunity is there, and Antoine Frisch, no, it's Joey Carberry rounding the last man, walking behind the post.
Keeping up here.
Carberry will surely pick that one over. Annie McCarry is into traffic, and Munster are more than willing to make those tackles. Edwin Adogbo was up that time. Lovely little back wrap around, and the pass inside to Dusing, and Nans Dusing is going to run in for the Barbarians' first try of the game. Munster stretched. We did say that this team can attack and can threaten. Dumora slots that over, and it's 14-1. That tackle, and it's put Munster into a dominant position, and Barron goes to the middle, and this time Munster's line out is perfect, and there's a lovely little set play move. You hardly even notice the ball going, and Munster have reached and scored. A huge reach.
Gavin Coombs roll, heel off the back. That's how destructive Gavin Coombs is, and he's a bit of a carbon copy in terms of what he can bring to the peel. And
the Barbarians really rolling through this. Same maul, says Frank Murphy, and that maul is heading towards that try line. The ball is taken off the back, and it is grounded. Christian Dacey is the man who comes up holding it. The hooker, Dottie.
3 retirees on the opposition, 2 starting, 1 who claims he's not retired on the bench, but Aaron Shingler coming out of retirement for this. Christian Dacey came out of retirement for his home club, but you know, it's not the level that he'd be playing it here, so Munster maybe can't.
What happens next is the last action of the game. Barbarians carrying heavy, looking to move it now out the line, and there is space, and it's gone through hands, and one by one they're queuing up, and the Barbarians will get the score to level this game on the stroke of Dumora lines this up as Munster come out to interfere. Daly puts his hands in the air, but the referees have it right on the line. Frank Murphy is saying the ball is there. Advantage for offside as Munster look to get forward and ground that ball, and they have grounded that ball. And who else? The gap he went, big right-handed fend. Joey Carberry is going to dink that one over the bar. Early start. Leone Nakarawa knocks that one back, but it's badly knocked back and into space, and Shane McCarthy is gone. Into his hands he goes, and he disappears into the distance and dots that ball down under the post. And from Shane Daly, and the lovely offload, and there goes Shane McCarthy. And another try. Going to make it to the line. The ball is loose. Munster pick it up. Calvin Nash, and the ball has been chucked loose, still loose. Shane McCarthy steps this way, steps that, gets the offload, and the try is scored. Suddenly the Barbarians are on their way. They're going to go all the way to the try line. No, the pass is wayward, and the ball is loose again, and they are going to get all the way to the try line. Really poor from Munster, trying to clean that up, and it is going to be scored. And finally touchdown. It can drive, short, narrow. Shane Daly stepping back inside, makes a yard. How? I don't know. Great carry from Finian Wycherley. Wycherley's at that line. He's managed to get over, and he has got it down. Finian Wycherley with the power.
Get the turnover that he probably did deserve inside his own 22 only a couple of minutes earlier.
Absolutely no lack of mettle for that player, and it's a lovely little off the ground training move, and the Barbarians are going to score in the corner, and they have. And the Barbarians team captain has knocked that through the post, that ball. Frisch with the lovely little offload into the hands, and Ethan Coughlin has it. Ethan Coughlin heading towards the 22. He's burst all the way through. He's got the offload into hands, and it's a superb finish. That whole length of the high and hanging. Is it going to come back inside? No, it is not. It crosses the face of the posts, and that will not be any extras, but a good outing nonetheless from Tony Butler. Munster have done fantastically well.